just Mexican people in general, Hispanic people, I think this in general, your parents' perception of you and what is actually happening is like incredibly different. You know what I mean? Like incredibly different. And that's a fact because the way, and it's not even like specific to parents. Like moms thought that I was like a fucking angel for like a big portion of my life, which is not, I wasn't like horrible. Yeah. But like I definitely wasn't a saint. Yeah. And Pops thought that I was horrible. Pops thought that like I was into everything, doing everything.
Yo, for real,
fucking everything.
Till like, this day, our father is like so 100% dead set on the fact that you've tried every drug on this earth and that you have experimented in every form of sexuality ever. And I'm like, why? Like, why him?
And I don't know what would even give him the idea that that's happening. Like, I've never done. When I go home, I'm just chilling. I just do what I always do. Like, there's no.
And he's like so 100% certain. He's like, no, it's probably happened. I'm like, why? Like you, like.
And I'm sure that happens. I'm sure that happens with like families everywhere where they're just like, oh, like this is my son, or this is my daughter, and this is what happened. And like the reality of it is like complete either 180 or not even close. Like not even remotely close to what is actually going on in that person's life, which is wild.
The good parts of you are typically pretty well, I think, understood by parents. Like, you know, you're like a responsible person to a certain extent, but it's always the wild parts that they just like either 100% repress and believe that you're like not about it.
Mom be heavily repressing.
Yeah, mom represses the fuck out of all of our like bad habits, and then and dad on the other hand like
augments it.
Oh yeah, he makes it seem like you are on some other level shit. Like with me, like it's me being a girl, woman, and the only girl in the family. Dad is always under the impression that I am 100% vulnerable. Like vulnerable. So dad thinks that like, oh no, like you're not, like you need to be taken care of. Where are you going? Like, what, do you really trust this? Do you really trust that? Do you trust this? But it's like, of course, it's always like the dad and the daughter always have somewhat of a similar relationship in almost every culture. But dad specifically is all like, oh my God, but can you really do it though? Like, you know, if he's already coddling us a little bit in like the terms of how he likes to help. Yeah. He definitely coddles me more.
100%.
Like always, 100%. And 100%. It's like not even asked for. It's always just like, I think it's because his assumption of me is that she can't do it on her own. And this is I am adamant. I am like super adamant about this, and I don't get like butthurt about this. But I definitely think that in every family, every parent has a favorite. And you're that favorite.
And I disagree.
Don't you start with your ass, because let me tell you.
I disagree.
I'm going to get Alex on the phone.
I disagree. 100%. But I do think that happens, and I'm okay with it. I'm not even tripping.
Like,
I'm not even tripping.
We were actually talking about this not that long ago with mom. And mom
did she admit it?
Yeah.
That I'm her favorite?
Yes. So we were like talking. So like this is the thing though.
Me and her getting fights. Me and her fighting right now.
That's why you're her favorite, because you actually go along with her like antics of like mom loves chaos. Like mom loves to be the source of the chaos. So I think she like has like this weird power trip of like being like in charge of like arguments. Like she wants to know that she started the argument. She's like, yeah, I did that. Like, yeah, like that's like her power trip. I don't know. But like we were talking about it. Alex was there, dad was there, mom and dad were there. So we were all like chilling, talking about it. And we were explaining how we think you're the favorite in the sense that like mom is always, they always seemed to prefer you in the sense that like they understood you a little bit more. So they understood that you were more hyper. They understood that you were more like willing and ready to do gymnastics, baseball, soccer, everything. So they put you into it. Meanwhile, me and Alex, we were way more like subdued and much more reserved. Like reserved. So when we wanted to do stuff, they were like, "Are you sure?" And we were like, "Well, not anymore, I guess." Like, never mind.
I always push back on that because I don't think it's the fact that they. And this may be retrospective also, but like I don't think it's the fact that they understood me more. I think it's the fact that like they were so young whenever they had me. They were babies. Like they were just kids. Yeah, they were your age. Like, you know, by the time they were your age, I was already 4. So like,
No.
or 3 or whatever the hell I was. Like,
Yeah, you were like 2 or 3.
The point is babies.
Yeah, you're babies.
They were young. They were young
babies.
people. So they didn't to figure themselves out, and then plus figure out how to be a parent was like fucking double. And then on top of that, in another country with no family and all that stuff. So I think they had no choice but to like run 2 lives at the same time and like figure out like their relationship and their money and like all that crap, while also raising a kid that also was rambunctious, super hyper, like but just highly independent from like a young age, like did not like take no for an answer, just all this crazy stuff.
Like straight, like you have always been the kind of person that has a very like straight mind. Like you say, I want to do this. And like from that moment that you say that out loud, or maybe the moment that you internalize that you want that, it's clear to a lot of the people who know you that you're on your way to get there. That you've already established some sort of like ground, like way or like whatever, like pathway to be able to get there, as opposed to myself. I can't speak for Alex because Alex does seem a little bit more like you, but like I'm not like that. Like I could have told mom and dad, I want to do this, and this, but since I had never had that kind of strong-minded mentality, like I would always just be like, but like I'm not gonna do it anymore. So like I would always feel very overwhelmed because I wanted to try a lot of things, but I never could focus enough to keep on that one thing. Now I realize as I'm older and have my own child that has similar like attributes, is now I realize it's probably like ADHD in like a much different form from yours.
Yeah, they did try to tell my mom that I had ADHD for a minute. Yeah. They were like, yo, he needs to get on pills and shit. And first of all, the idea of like medication threw her off a little bit. Yeah. But then also the idea of that having to cost money. And she was all like, we'll just throw him into something. I don't know. We'll just figure something out. Yeah. We'll just let him run for a little longer than usual.
I've specifically been searching up because my daughter has ADHD. Mm-hmm. And the ideas are that men and women go through ADHD very differently. So
break that down, because I didn't know this.
So men are more externalizers. So you will show. That's why you guys get picked out really quickly for having ADHD, because men tend to be more like vocal, more hyper. They're more like, I want to do this. I want to go over here. I want to play this sport. I want to do this. So it's easy for teachers to be like, that kid can't focus that easily.
Got it.
Women are more internalizers. So women tend to be more on the lines of like, in their own mind, they're like, I can't focus.
So they're rushing in their own mind.
Yes.
Typically, like everything's scrambling in their own mind, and then outwardly they're like,
they look calm as hell, and like.
Whereas boys, young boys may be all over the place in the room, but their minds are blank.
Yeah. So their minds are pretty much. It's like the complete opposite effect. So like, mom,
just like, yes. If you looked inside the brain, it's just some idiot.
Yes. So
with a sound or some shit.
So like typically, it's been more studies going in trying to internalize and figure out, because a lot of the stuff that's been researched has mainly just been on boys, because it's been a lot easier to determine these things on boys. And nowadays there's a lot more movements in trying to get women involved and trying to figure that out.
Well, if I do have ADHD, which I've never been properly diagnosed or whatever, but I have read that people with ADHD can also hyper focus.
Yes.
They can also like hyper focus, which would probably make sense on my end, because from a young age I would definitely
very like if you found something very interesting, you stuck to it. Yeah. So like there was nothing that could take you away from
that.
Like
day,
no matter
sleep,
what
shit,
it was,
like
you would literally be on it. And mom and dad picked up on that really quickly. So, and it's a great attribute to have in a way. And then I'm sure you know that it might be a bit of a tough attribute to have.
It's a curse in some aspects,
because there's a lot, I'm sure you go through a lot of things, anxieties, periods in your life where that particular aspect of your life is what makes it harder for you to keep doing what you want to do. Meanwhile, me, everything has always been so like, I want to do so much, but have no idea on how to focus in on it correctly.
See, this is the beauty of having your sister be talking to you in the middle, like in front of cameras and shit, because then we look at this scenario and like 6 months ago, I didn't think about starting a podcast. 6 months ago, I was all like, I mean, I don't know. I got some video shit to do. I got a company. I'm going to figure this shit out. And then 6 months later, like, we're doing a podcast.
Also, actually, I don't even think I introduced myself. We just started talking.
Oh, yeah.
I'm Marce, and we are working on the Move Media.
On the Move Media. That is, On the Move Media is the official sponsor / donor / umbrella producer thing, which is essentially all of us anyway. So, I mean, it's just all of us it's just a moniker. We just put on a different hat and we just call ourselves On the Move Media, but we're also the Degenerates. And then we also have our own independent things that we're all doing separately. And that's but you'll find out about that later. Either way, I don't think going back to the thing, I push back on me being the favorite thing because of that, because it was just 3 people, 2 adults and 1 child figuring shit out at the same time. So our relationship is just a lot different because of the fact that we watched each other grow literally. Like I watched them grow as adults, and then they watched me grow.
What's crazy though is that's why me and Alex think you're the favorite though, because they have that form of bond with you that with us,
a friendship. They have more of a friendship bond.
That was very different from the way me and Alex were growing up, because I took in a lot of the growing with Alex, and I took in a lot of the like, Marce, you take care of Alex while we're doing this, okay? So like it was a lot of like mom doing her thing, trying to do what she needed to do, and I was there with him. So the relationship that I have with Alex is from the get-go has always been typically more united, as opposed to
you guys are definitely closer,
as opposed to you and I. Now in more recent times, I do feel like you and I have gotten a lot closer, but because we have understood that there's new things that we not necessarily have in common, but there are new things that like I can enlighten you about and you can enlighten me about.
There's experiences that we've had that we shed light on.
And then just the fact that we grew up the way that we grew up with our family and especially our dad being the way that he is, we've always just learned that it's always best to communicate about anything. So
100%. That was encouraged.
Yeah. So like with us, if there's something that bothers us, something that you're like, hey, are you all right? Like, what's up? Like, I don't know if you or Alex are all that too perceptive about like if any one of us is having a bad day, but with me, I don't know. Again, I don't know if it's a girl thing or if it's just me, but I tend to pick up on like, hey, are you all right? With Alex as well. Like Alex, I'll be like, hey, how are you doing?
At that. Yeah. I'm really bad at that only because I'm like, I'm at 100 miles an hour. So like I wake up, I'm doing something, I'm constantly moving. I mean, it's part of the reason me and moms are in a snuffle right now, because we're just like.
But y'all are both exactly the same though. Mom does not stop. Like mom's mind running 100 miles an hour, and she remembers every little thing. That's why me and her, I can't understand her that well, because I can't understand how somebody can do so much but still be like, oh, I have this today and I have that today and I have that to do this tomorrow. And I'm like, girl, what? Slow down.